Within this lesson, I'm going to cover off how to add JavaScript to your page. So when we go to our CodePen.io example, we see that the JavaScript, it's got a JS area, and whatever JavaScript we're typing in here, it's actually running through within the display area here on the right-hand side. So this is not going to be the case when you're writing your code because you've only got one file to work with. And even if so you've got to determine where you're going to place the JavaScript. So there are a number of options. You can place JavaScript pretty much anywhere within your HTML document, and the way you can do this is by opening up script and closing script. And again, I'm going to use that alert example. So what alert does is it's a simple built-in function in JavaScript, and it allows you to have that little pop-up window that we saw in the last lesson. So I'm going to just simply place script tags, opening, closing script tags. So it looks like similar to HTML. Open and close them, and then whatever content is between the script tags, this is going to be what the browser is going to understand as this is the JavaScript that needs to be run. So once I save this, refresh it, we see that now we get the JavaScript being run, we get the pop-up window, and until we click OK, it's not going to continue running, loading the rest of the page. So that's an important thing to keep in mind when you are creating JavaScript. So if you are trying to access, so there's within JavaScript, we have what's known as the DOM, and we have access to all the different pieces of your HTML document, and we can access all of this through JavaScript. And this is what is known essentially as the DOM, that interactivity and connection between the HTML and JavaScript, and what gets loaded and rendered out in the browser. So the reason I'm bringing this up is because, again, this is about order and how things get presented to the browser. And when we're trying to access anything within the body section of our page, but we're trying to access it before it's actually loaded, we're going to run into some errors and some issues. So again, remember, order is important, and if you are trying to access content that's going to be available within the page, then it's mostly advisable to put JavaScript at the bottom of the page. And when we look at any of the source code on, just going to use brackets as an example here, so they actually have some JavaScript here at the top, but when we scroll down to the bottom of the page, we see that they have the bulk of their JavaScript. And the reason again for this is it's better format. A number of reasons. You get access to all of that DOM information so that this all gets to load and then you access it. Also, if you have any problems with any one of these JS files, if they're not loading or if they're taking time to load, then this is actually going to affect your loading time of your web page. So ideally, you want to have it at the bottom of your page, because if you do have any problems, you don't want the user's experience to be interrupted with loading and rendering of JavaScript. So mostly place it at the bottom. There are some cases where you need it at the top, so that's why they've got it up here. So they have needs to be at the top, not at the bottom like other JS. So there's obviously a reason here, because it's probably something to do with the fonts. I haven't looked at this, but this is likely the case why they've placed it here at the top. And we notice here that they've also commented in the HTML that it needs to be in the top. So good practice, place it at the bottom. So more like what we see in this example, where we're taking the script tags and we're placing them at the bottom. And the same thing here when, actually I'm going to flip it back up, run the code, and just show you what the difference is going to be. So we see that it's not, actually still need to make a change, because when I'm reloading the page, we see that that hello world is still hello world. It's not hello world 2 as I've changed the code. And when I hit OK, we see hello world 2 comes up. So taking the script tag, moving it to the bottom of just before we're closing off body. And I should actually change this again so that we do see that something is happening here. So when I refresh it, we see that it already changes the code. That means that it has run through and it's progressively scanned through all of this content, and then it's running the JavaScript. So it is afterwards. So that was just a quick sample of what and how to place JavaScript. And another thing about placing JavaScript, we have another option with using JavaScript. And this is more in the lines of what CodePen is doing here. So we're not exactly placing it within the HTML, even though we can if we wanted to in CodePen. They do have a separate section in using JavaScript. And what they're doing is they're actually calling to this JavaScript. So they're simulating calling to an external JavaScript file. And this is probably the best way to use JavaScript within your web pages, because it does give you the ability to reuse that code over and over again. So what I mean by that is creating a brand new file and just simply linking out to it. And I'll show you how that works. So I've created a brand new file called myscript.js. So this is going to be my external JavaScript file, and we still have access to all of this information, and it's really going to be the same thing as taking this, placing it over into the script.js file. And again, the benefit of this is that now if I want multiple pages to have this alert showing up, I can simply just link to this myscript.js in any one of the pages. And the way that we do that is we just put in a source here. So make sure that you do get that source file correct. So myscript.js. So that's just because I've got it within that same directory, and we still have to close that off the script tags. So notice that we've just got a blank area there, and the browser is going to be able to understand that, okay, this is what we want to render out. And I'm going to place hello 2 there and refresh it, and we're going to see that something went wrong with that. And I just opened up my directory here. So the thing was, I hadn't actually saved it in the right spots. So to my point about having the right path to the file, so now I've saved it, myscript.js. There's my index.html. So now when I refresh it, we should be okay, and we should see that alert showing up. So that's how you bring JavaScript into your web pages. And again, probably the best practice is to link out to files. And as we can see here within the source file here, there are cases where you might want to have the JavaScript right within your web pages, and then that's okay too. So this would be only for this particular page. So we're not actually linking out. And then these are shared JavaScript libraries that we're linking out to, probably in more than just one page. We're probably linking out to them in a number of pages.